How do I tackle Pokemon? It's such a huge, influential, vital, and long-standing series that has stuck with me for my entire life. I played Gen 1, with Pokemon Yellow is the first game I ever owned with the Game Boy frickin' Pocket. Playing with neighbors, getting the toys that cause kids to suffocate on the Pokeballs from Burger King, Pokemon cards, trading with people at school, until their inevitable ban, of course, watching the anime, playing the spin-offs, and list goes on. I hit middle school, still in love with the franchise. Many peers fell off, going to the more mature gaming route or just dropping games altogether. I stuck with it, played every gen, numerous spin-offs, watching the movies and whatnot. In college, when people stopped caring about what was cool or not, me and my friends got together with the Switch and played Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee and Sword and Shield and all those games. When I tell you it brought memories of my childhood, it brought me to a place you rarely feel in adulthood. So, am I glad and proud to stick with this series? Am I proud and happy of what this series has become? Yeah, I refuse to comment on that.
Oh, you were close!
I have genuinely struggled with how I wanted to cover these games. I figured the mainline set of games, we get the original release, maybe a deluxe version, and older gens we have remakes as well to consider. Gen 1 at the moment is clearly the most densely packed when talking about the amount of Pokemon games. Hell, for a moment I considered covering a lot of the spin-off games that aligned with each gen. That would be a massive undertaking, one that sounds a little insane for me to do right now. I will cover a decent amount of spin-offs in probably due time, Gen 1 specifically holding a lot of memorable games for me in my childhood and teen years. I already covered Pokemon Snap earlier. I see some people refer to each of the remakes in their generation of launch, considering the Pokemon you can get along with the many quality of life changes we see in the series undergo from the start. For example, Fire Red and Leaf Green are usually categorized with Gen 3 due to when it was released, obviously. The franchise has had a lot of releases for the 10-year it boasts. With Gen 1, we see many individual releases, starting with Red and Green in Japan, then Red and Blue elsewhere, followed by Yellow as a sort of definitive or an enhanced version. Fire Red and Leaf Green came out as enhanced versions of the duology of the games that started it all, more content, all that jazz as well. Finally, we see another remake, re-release, reimagining in the way of Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee. For now, that is all. Please, I can only take so much. This is getting to be a lot. I have kept up with each release, as I said, playing each game and remake, some to the displeasure of as well as being a lot more favorable than others. Gen 1 gets a lot of interesting opinions around the fandom. It of course houses the most popular Pokemon the series has ever seen. It is not often I see people like my parents able to mention multiple Pokemon, especially in Gen 1, by their name. The popularity of Pokemon is something that I really don't need to go into much detail. The stranglehold it had on many generations of kids knocks on the accusations of it's really just a fad. It has outlived and outsold all of its competition. Gen 1 has created long-lasting fans. Some fell off and began to hate all other generations, calling them uninspired trash. These people are dubbed Gen 1ers, aka go take a frickin' shower. You go think of 1,000 unique species off rip and not have a few intersect and a few be a little bit of dull hitters. The wild designs we see at least now deserve credit as much as Gen 1 creating animal with power, as a lot of them honestly are. It is okay to like newer gens, it's okay to like older gens, some people just need to give it a rest. I hate to see you deal with actual goddamn issues. Enough ranting, I could go on that for too long. Pokemon games, I love the fanbase. Well, moving on. This is going to be a sort of three-parter series where I individually dissect and combine aspects talking about Gen 1. I'm thinking about the Kanto experience. It's a working title. Come on. Work with me, alright? For time's sake and whatnot, the series is split as follows. Red, blue, and yellow. Aspects of the Japanese-only green will be discussed, but they will be lumped in here because I'm trying to keep some sanity. Fire Red and Leaf Green. The Game Boy Advance remakes get their own dedicated section. And finally, Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee. I think they deserve their own spotlight as well, as they are bordering that spin-off category, but also have the components of the mainline games as well. I will try my best to explain the differences while talking about some parts as a whole. Work with me here, it may be a tad bumpy. There's no smooth way I can figure out how to tackle this series that I've loved, played, and grew annoyed with over my entirety of this lifespan. Alright, let's start with the beginning of the series. The thing that started this mass craze and, well, everything else that's happened so far. This is Pokemon Yellow and Red and Blue and Green, released for the Game Boy Color Game Boy, regular. This one's gonna be a long one. Let's dive in. The background for the first set of games will probably be the most due to only getting one startup story for the entire conception of a mega franchise as Pokémon. It is a pretty well-known story, of course, all things considered. The creator of Pokémon, Satoshi Tajiri, is a game designer for Nintendo working on games here and there. His main bread and butter would be Pokémon, of course, but it took some time to get off the ground. Tajiri was an avid insect collector, being his dream job to be an entomologist as a kid. The idea of Pokémon came from the love of collecting bugs out in the rural parts of Japan as he grew up. Making that game capturing that sense of adventure and childlike wonder was not immediately loved by his uppers. It took some time to convince the higher-ups until Mr. Big Balls Shigeru Miyamoto himself took interest in the project. Well decorated as he was by this point, having Miyamoto as your backer meant that you were gonna go somewhere, at the very least. So Miyamoto went on as a producer for the original Pokémon with Tajiri as the lead for the project. At the helm was Tajiri's own company, Game Freak, synonymous with Pokémon to many as this is the developer and co-owner of the franchise. The company was actually a video game magazine self-published by Tajiri and predated the game company. Game Freak as a gaming company launched in 1989 with a few key members helping out with the creation of Pokémon as well. Let's get into them here as well. Running with Game Freak almost as long as Tajiri is primary artist Ken Sugimori. He helped with the magazine variants of Game Freak, but came out to be the primary artist, responsible for the iconic designs of most of the original 151. A few others assisted as well, but Sugimori would maintain a large presence, going from main designer to more of a directory and supervising role, with many more artists over the years contributing to the hundreds of mods. Next up is Junichi Masuda, the third of this trio of Game Freak boys. He has a long history as you'd expect like the rest, and started off as a composer for the Pokémon series. He assisted with many other aspects as well, and would take the torch from Tajiri around the third generation of Pokémon. Tajiri stepped off to an executive producer role while Masuda led the charge until the switched generations of games. Now stepping back as well, Masuda gave the torch to the newest director, Shigeru Omori, but as Omori isn't relevant now, he won't be into the picture until the 2000s in the actual Game Freak lineup. That's the main set of crew for the concept of Pokemon Red, Blue, and Green. The creation specifics of Pokemon were birthed here as well. As mentioned, Tajiri had love of the outdoors and insect collection. Masuda shared similar memories from his childhood as well, helping continue onwards. The decision to nickname Pokemon was right away for more personal connections, as well as Tajiri intentionally ensuring Pokemon faint, not die. This was all for his love of just the nature. Miyamoto was the real bastard behind the multiple versions, however. The concept seemed to have come from Dragon Quest II, of all games, where Sugimoto and Tajiri were expressing the wish to trade rare items from games. With the Game Boy's link cable now in use, the idea to trade made it less of a pipe dream and more of a mechanic they could actually implement. Of course, Miyamoto suggesting making two versions with their own unique Pokemon, incentivizing the trade aspect. I made a jab for more likely not people seeing this as a purely monetary incentive on Miyamoto's part. I think that was not only a smart move, but vital to the game's initial success. You can argue if that is not the case for present day of the games, but you cannot lie, it ain't nothing if not iconic. Creating a scenario where people pick their game and trade with others was very vital. Maybe of the time, but it led to a friendship and community of people sharing their love for games. Now is a different time from then, but sharing secrets, knowledge, tips, while also having a core mechanic be interacting with others in real life. With the urbanization of Japan and the area where Tajiri grew up, he noticed a lack of kids playing outdoors. I would not be surprised if this helped push that as well, actually having kids interact with each other in-game and out of the game. He's creating a game that mimicked his childhood, while also providing a way to reconnect others with something that was on the decline in the area. Regardless, it was a smart gambit and really played off in the long run, as you could tell. Red and Green saw release in 1996 in Japan, with the special edition in Japan being Blue later in that year. All three versions had their own spread of Pokemon, needing to trade with another version for the full Pokédex. Blue had been a special edition with updated visuals and artwork, but was more or less just another extension. The release to the States took a long time, even for back then, as there were great complications with the programming side. The source code was not super great, a lot of the names were reworked for English and even trademarked then. The games we see as Red and Blue in the States follow a modeling of the superior Japanese Blue version, but kept the unique spread of Pokemon from the original Red and Green. This is all vital, alright? Following the releases to Australia and Europe commenced, the popularity of Pokemon was here, the reception was phenomenal, the sales were insane, the marketing worked, I'm sure y'all don't need me to tell you that. Pokemon was becoming a sensation. It did not take long for an anime, Pokemon cards, toys, and all the merch we see today to drop. Yellow became a byproduct of that. This was a definitive or special edition of all the versions to this point. It followed a unique story, more following the anime at some story beats. You are forced into picking Pikachu as your starter, with your rival taking Eevee, as well as new events like running into Jesse and James of the anime Team Rocket fame. All releases of Yellow were out by 2000, where we finally can put a pin in the development side for now. An astonishing 31 million copies were sold worldwide. Mayhaps a bit cheating with how many versions we see, but the success was apparent for Game Freak and Nintendo to keep this series as a mainstay. Welcome to the world of Pokémon. Pokémon is an RPG. You pick a team up to 6 and battle 1v1 until one party gets a full wipe. There, of course, is a diverse set of typing with their unique spread of resistances and weaknesses, each Pokémon having its own set of moves it can learn along with its own stats. A crazy concept with how many potential party members you can hold, and combinations skyrocket as well. You aren't locked to a team, switching is easy. It is a system that encourages testing out as many teams as you want. Most games in Pokémon follow a simple formula: collect Pokémon, fill out the Pokédex, fight gyms, and become the champion of the region. But what does that all mean? For us, we pick our character. For all intents and purposes, we will keep it simple. We have Red. Red lives in Plateau, neighbors to a famous professor of Pokémon research, Professor Oak. Oak gives you and his douchey grandson a Pokémon of your choosing as your partner. After being subjected to a basic battle with Blue, your forced upon rival, you are set out to collect and raise Pokémon. The world of Pokémon has the creatures live in tandem with humans in many aspects of the world. The diverse set of creatures lead all different variants around the world. Some of the Mons are more typical animal types, assisting with local wildlife diversity, flora to their own degree. Others have deep-rooted lore, byproduct of things like mutations and evolutions over time, or the hubris of mankind themselves. Of course, most are just flavor text for cute little creatures, but it helps give a sense of world building to an ever-growing diversity of this world of Pokémon. People oftentimes talk about the many rivalry between the species, creepy Pokédex entries, oftentimes showing off the accurate and harsh nature that mirrors the real world. Say what you will, but that is awesome, and something like this makes the series stand out to this day is just the ever-growing lore. Even if you don't vibe with every design up till now, you would be nigh ignorant to dismiss things like design, lore, or general inspiration, taking spots from all sides of the earth. Especially newer gens, they are really kind of stretching to a bunch of obscure things. Back to Kanto, we are roped into errands for Oak, mixing us in with the Pokédex, an electronic catalog for documenting these forms of wildlife. Oak asks you, since you are starting your journey, to help fill it out to the best of your ability. I mean, the tagline of this series is "Gotta catch 'em all." As a kid, this Herculean task was something that any player strive for. Even with a dedicated team helping out with versions, this task is still something of a grind, but hey, it's pretty damn cool nonetheless. With the dex in hand, we are encouraged to seek out Pokemon while taking the gym challenge. Most regions in Pokemon lore have a sort of challenge organized by the Pokemon League of that region, as a large majority of trainers spend time battling with their partners, testing the limits on who is the best in commonplace. The gyms are set up in a sort of ascending order, raising the difficulty for each one. Anyone seems able to attempt, as for most regions, they are able to start at the same place for the region-wide trek for the 8 badges. The 8 gyms are present, which each set of trainers and specified leader in a type of their choosing. The flexibility of Pokemon in your arsenal can make more challenging than others may experience, adding to the replayability, of course. From the start in Pallet Town, a short walk over to the neighboring city of Viridian hosts a gym, but locals say it's been shut down for a while, no leader present in there. Concept I really like to envision in these games, but the idea that potentially hundreds of challengers go up against the gym challenge, but with each leader, the number drops significantly. Spoilers, this gym is near the end of the game, so it leads to believe that this challenge is quite tough, with the very small amount of trainers able to make it to the end if the leader has been absent for an unspecified time. Obviously in newer games this doesn't work out as well, since you're usually able to tackle the gyms in any order, but it was a concept I at least envisioned as a kid, sounding really cool. Viridian does not have a whole lot else going for it. West is the Pokemon League though, where the endgame is. A smart way to put the end goal so close to the start of the game. You can try going there, but get stopped by Blue, and then the gate if you try to press on. It gives a very tangible sense of where you want to be, where you'll end up, and when you finally make it here, it's just a cool way to look back at the game. Moving on to the next area though, north of Viridian is a forest sharing the same name. This is the only way to the first gym in Pewter City, giving us our first proper dungeon, Viridian Forest. Looking at this, it's a pretty solid first dungeon. It's not overly difficult, not long either, and the way you can tackle this are pretty open. Well, first off, let's talk about status effects. The mechanics of the battle have been relatively tame at this point in the game. The starters usually get a damaging move and a status move like Tail Whip or Growl, which lowers defense or attack, stuff like that. I feel most kids will opt for the moves that deal damage, cause I mean hell, no damage moves suck, am I right fellas? Your starter will most likely have a stab move by this point, standing for same type attack bonus, aka fire moves on fire Pokemon equals big number. You can try out with weaknesses and resistance a lot more around here, except most Pokemon are bug typing here. Regardless of, Pokemon mainly consisting of Weedle and Caterpie line have a lot of non-damaging moves. Things like String Shot for speed or Hardening for defense. They're not battle enders, but can have you rethinking battling, of course. Picking up new members is probably vital here. Early type bug Pokemon are sort of a trope for the series. They aren't overly strong, but with evolutions very quick, level 7 and 10 for the aforementioned too, the stat boosts make them a big consideration, at least until you find a more permanent member. Lastly, Poison Sting. Poison is the first status you will most likely encounter, and one of the most dangerous. If you played any RPG, you understand how poison works. This is one of the few effects that will do something outside of battle, hurt with every step. You'll want to have a few antidotes here. The forest offers some extra paths though, usually for some items, but the main way is not too bad if you know it. Lastly, for dungeon design is the multiple paths for trainers here. Another tropey dungeon design is to have two paths leading to the same goal. One may be chock full of tall grass, rife with wild Pokemon ready to jump you. The other side may be absent of the grass, but locked in with trainers. Trainers are typically a little bit more difficult, but give money and more XP upon defeat. Wild battles can be circumvented with items like Repel, but also it's all RNG baby in the end. Definitely overlooked now, but it's another great underrated design, giving players to choose their own path. Avoiding trainers is your best interest if you're near fainting, of course. Losing all Pokemon results in a whiteout, losing some money, and getting bounced back to the last Pokemon Center you arrived at. I haven't mentioned those. Think-ins. Alright, cool. Making it to the other side of the forest is Pewter City, more bustling and such, even decked out with a museum to check out if you so wish. We do get roadblock here, somebody won't let you pass until you get the first badge. So we could check up on the first gym in the entire series, Pewter City Gym. Pewter's gym is very bland, the rock type only being shown in basic theming. The core of the gyms is usually solve puzzle, get to leader, other trainers may or may not be optional. In the series, fighting trainers other than the leader can be used as a penalty for not correctly puzzling out the gym. We see some examples a little bit later on. This one is simple, straightforward path, and you can stake around if you wish to fight them. I usually do regardless, since EXP is nice and the trainers cannot be fought once the leader is taken down. Just do what you really feel is right, I guess. The gym leader Brock, iconic for his anime appearance, is a pretty solid first fight, no pun intended. His Pokemon should be around par with what you have at this type, rock type being a pretty tanky type, as you'd expect. We get the Boulder Badge upon defeat and can head out to our next destination. Once again, we're ever so lucky that the next gym in the lineup is the town to the right. Just one tiny little problem. There is one itsy-bitsy mountain stuck between the two giant cities. Mount Moon is the next dungeon, giving us a little of what we saw in the forest, but to higher levels. Rock types are endless here, giving you a reason to try to best them if you struggled against Brock. Zubats are probably the worst thing to ever exist. Confusion is an awful move, and they will use it until their little wings give out. Gen 1 Confusion and Sleep to that extension suck. It actually fucking blows. Replaying this was kind of a nightmare, even with me just using my perfectly legal Game Boy to speed through battles. Confusion just has you hit yourself to death. The moves being way too damn accurate though. Sleep has the annoyance of when you wake up, that's your turn. Newer gens fix this by having you attack or use your move the turn you wake up. The way it has now makes this a way you can actually get stun locked in Gen 1, it sucks ass. I know later on, Freeze actually can pretty much make somebody immobile for the rest of it unless you have a way to heal it, so that's also great too. Love that. One of the biggest critiques I have that make Gen 1 games a little bit harder to go back to is the absolute awful balancing of the stats. Avid Pokemon fans are aware of the many common things like the physical special split, where not all moves from the type stay the same. Special as a stat was just one stat instead of newer gens with the split of attack and defense. Psychic being absolutely busted, just general bugginess, say hi missing though. Like, the quality of life has jumped so damn high since the start of these games. The games are commendable for pioneering a mega franchise, but man, aging is a bitch. Moving to the end of Mount Moon, as long as your sense of direction is not terribly poor, Mount Moon is significantly longer than Viridian, but overall manageable as long as you came prepared. This is your first encounter with Team Rocket here, as each game has a villainous team. Nothing much to say right here specifically, except that this is another aspect of trading in games. Obviously, you're locked in the one starter here, and we get another trope of the fossil Pokemon. After fighting some Team Rocket, you run into a nerd where two fossil Pokemon lie, and you can only choose one. Talking with peers to coordinate who gets what fossil can help. You can't use the fossils just yet, but you get to hold on to them for the time being. We can also move to the aspect of breeding. Unfortunately, it did not exist in Gen 1, so I'm moving on. Outside, we can breathe a sigh of relief and head straight to Cerulean City. A lot of stuff is going on here. First off, you can challenge the gym right away. I'll save this as we may want to hit the surrounding area to gain some levels first. A house has been ransacked by Team Rocket and is closed off due to a police investigation. To the north is Nugget Bridge and Cerulean Cape. We get stopped by Blue again, and if victorious, we have a little gauntlet ahead. The Nugget Bridge is a pretty forgettable, but also iconic at the same time. Mainly the location, the trainers not so much so. The person at the end gifts you with a nugget, an expensive selling item for this point in the game, and convinces you to join Team Rocket. You fight them and they yield. While pretty small events, I like the idea of slowly planting the seeds of the villainous team throughout. Them doing sketchy work in Mount Moon, now burglary in Cerulean, and trying to recruit new members just north of Cerulean is just kind of an interesting way to view this team so far. Moving to the end of the Cape is Bill, giving you the man behind the PC system for storing Pokemon. As well as helping him grant you a ticket to board the luxury liner SS Anne in Vermilion. It hosts our next gym battle after Cerulean, so that's neat, something we can at least do. Lastly, northwest of Cerulean lies a cave blocked off by a person. This is Cerulean Cave. We cannot even get here yet due to having no way to cross the water, but skipping ahead, this man will not let us in until we have proven ourselves. This simply means we have to beat the game. It is where Mewtwo is for the post-game, but I go back to the idea of that mystery given you so early on, much like the Pokemon League. It sits with you in the back of your mind. You're probably going, oh, what is that cave? I'm sure many went there immediately upon getting surfed to check it out, only to get turned away again. At the end, it is just a post-game dungeon where you can get a Mewtwo and some high-level Pokemon, but it's still a really cool way to kind of just hint at the end game. Anyways, with the levels you got here in the bridge, Misty in the Cerulean Gym should be a bit easier. Her specialty is water type, basically going along up here in the swimming pool. Take her down and move on. The only way to move towards our goal right now is to go past the broken house from before. The Team Rocket member responsible for this is still here and you fight. Let us leave Cerulean though and head to our next test, down south. Moving south is our only option right now, as I just said. A large amount of these pesky trees are blocking our way. They look like they could be cut down. But we have no way to do this right now. In between Cerulean and Vermilion is the largest city in Kanto, Saffron City. The roads are all blocked off from the 4 entrances, making the town inaccessible, but the passage between the other towns is also a challenge now because of this. Luckily, an underground passageway exists to route players around the city if need be. One goes north and south and the other goes east and west, but the two do not intersect. We can head towards Vermilion City this way by way of the Cerulean edge, and we can see the lovely port town. Right away we get options. First, we can get the bike voucher, something that we will need for later, but here is a nice mode of transportation that can be used outdoors. The gym is blocked off by these pesky trees again. If you go east, you'll get blocked off by a Snorlax sleeping on the road. There's no way to wake him up or pass it this time. We were kind of stuck, but having to pass to go to the SS Anne, which is holding a party, we might as well go there. We arrive and find out the party ended. The boat is scheduled to leave soon, but you can fight a large number of the trainers here. They are temporary, so I recommend that, except for the sailor that likes feisty kids like you. Wow, that is highly concerning. Go to jail. At the end, Blue ambushes you for another damn fight and meeting with the captain discovers him to be seasick. I don't know, man, I've never been on a boat, mind you, but I feel like that's like having the equivalent of a pilot scared of heights or some shit. Anyways, you can cure his sickness by giving him a pat in the back, and he gives you the first HM of caught. I've neglected to talk about TMs and HMs yet, but TMs, HMs are technical machines and hidden machines of the like. They're a long-time mechanic of the series. TMs are one-time use only discs that teach moves to Pokemon compatible with said moves. They are, of course, varying of quality. HMs are mostly garbage-ass moves that are mainly used to combat against environmental roadblocks. The issue in the HM is that it cannot be removed unless by a move deleter. There is one in every game, but not typically found until the game's second half. The other kicker is that you usually want these in the party because if you're in a dungeon and forget an HM, well, you're shit out of luck, or you might have to get rid of an actually good move. Many players have went the route of the early game Pokemon that always seems compatible with like 90% of the game's HMs and dubs them the HM slave. An unevolved, low-level Pokemon that sole use is to HM away. We have present day to thank for the removal of most HMs and TMs and getting the ability to have TMs be reusable. I love both these changes for sure, but we cannot retroactively remedy the old games, so it's just something we have to deal with now. Another thing we cannot fix, I'm sure many would love to encounter now, is bag storage. Notoriously awful in the first gen. This bag filled up so damn quick. No separate space for key items either. There is an item storage in every PC, but fuck, that's limited too. You may have to use or sell unwanted TMs or other items at this point, as well as storing key items when their use is dried up. This is a change that happens quick in the series, so thank God. Anyways, we use Cut to reach Lieutenant Surge in Vermilion Gym. He can be a bastard. Paralysis is not a nice move to deal with. It halves your speed and also can just prevent you from going, as well as the speed of a lot of lightning types, making this really tough. Also, to this day, the Vermilion puzzle of the trash cans does not fully make sense to me. You randomly find a switch, and the hint is that the second switch will be found right next to it, but it's a toss-up. I think which the can it's in, especially if switch 1 is found in the middle with a lot of options on the other side. I'm also dumb. I mean, take that into account. I mean, why else am I over-explaining video games made for children? I'm clearly not cut out for being a doctor. This is what people usually deem a failure. They do changes up in Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, skipping ahead a little bit. Beating Lieutenant Surge ups your badge count to 3. A detour you may want to take is through the Diglett Tunnel. It's right at the edge of Vermilion. Getting a Diglett may have been good stomping for Surge prior, but running to the other side pits you out to Pewter, creating a short bypassing Mount Moon. A small pathway is newly accessed, shows a small hut where we encounter an Oakade. Some of Professor Oak's employees are scattered throughout the region. If you talk to them after hitting certain milestones in the Pokédex, you will be rewarded. It varies from game to game on the condition of Pokemon caught versus Pokemon seen, but usually it's caught and registered in the actual Pokédex. The aid in particular gives you something that is a lot more vital, especially for the newer players, the HM of Flash. I already spoke about HMs, but this one takes the cake in uselessness. It lowers accuracy on the field and it lights up areas. For Kanto, it is one dungeon that we are about to go into. Rock Tunnel. That's it. This is the epitome of why a lot of people take issue with the HMs, especially since they can't be removed through normal methods. Accuracy lowering is not a terrible move in and of itself, but when you have to force it onto a Pokemon and then cannot remove it unless by unconventional means, it sucks ass. I never really jive with the idea of sacking a Pokemon for solely HM usage, but spread out on a whole team ain't exactly super great all the time anyways. Whatever, with Cut and Tow, we head to the next city for the next badge challenge. That would be towards Celadon. Cutting through Saffron would be great, but surprise, it's still blocked off. If you were to look at a map of Kanto, the next best way would be to go from Cerulean to Lavender Town and then use the passageway that runs east to west. The big second heaping mountain, called Rock Tunnel, lies in wait, however. I hate Rock Tunnel, man. Mount Moon, but larger, darker, and less important. Now Rocket members are here. Between SSN and what we see at the other end of this tunnel, there's just more dungeons here, and it feels like boring padding. The fact that Mount Moon was not all along blows too. Rock Tunnel is very dark, needing Flash to illuminate. You can use maps and whatnot online to feel your way around if you really want to do that. It is rather unimportant to the whole of Kanto, as I just said, trainers, wild Pokemon, and frustration. At the other end lies Lavender Town, the creepypasta place. Boy howdy, creepy music. Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is the city where Pokemon who die are buried in Kanto. The main attraction, if you can call it that, is the Pokemon Tower. This is a large cemetery for deceased Pokemon. I spoke about how Pokemon were made to specifically faint in the beginning. This point was drilled in by Tajiri, not wanting the Pokemon to be killed in battles. I mean, it does sound pretty brutal for a kid's game, if you think about it. This is really the first time anyone has to combat the concept of death in the series. It's a little jarring looking at all the implications of it all, and honestly, pretty dark. If I'm being honest, I understood the creepiness of the song, but never really understood it until the internet started with these theories. I mean, I get the dreary and sad feeling for sure, but I don't think I could fully grasp the concept of something like death at the age of yellow. I mean, hell, I opted to skip my great-grandfather's funeral in the first grade because I did not want to mess up my perfect attendance record at school. Yes, this story is true, and yes, I only got upset once I found out my older siblings got McDonald's and I had a packed lunch. Sue me, sorry. For those somehow not in the know, Lavender Town Syndrome is one of the, if not the most popular old-school creepypasta stories. Basically, creepypastas are urban legends, scary stories on the internet. Hopefully I don't need to explain that to too many people. I had a big phase watching a lot of these in the day. Some popular ones were like Sonic EXE, Majora's Mask's Ben Drowned, along with this one. Good times. Anyways, the theories that went into the original Red and Green Pokemon releases, the music of Lavender Town had a certain pitches that apparently only children could hear. Children allegedly went on to have reported causes of insomnia, brain hemorrhages, sudden violent behavior, and apparently hundreds of suicides in Japan. Now, this is all not true. The song change was a rumor and supposedly it changed for the international release, the internet giving a nice ground to stage fake music for non-Japanese players. Of course, people couldn't deny the unsettling vibe and eeriness the whole place gives off, giving some credence to the theory. Following the whole concept of death and everything around it, it honestly just made the creepypasta that much more believable to many. I'd recommend giving the creepypastas a check out if you somehow missed that stuff. It's honestly pretty interesting to read, if honestly a little bit silly looking back at it. Anyways, you may be interested to check out the tower, and you can, going up. You run into Blue, who scolds you for not having any dead Pokemon. I know another theory lies here with Blue having a dead Raticate or something like that, but I'll move on. Beat him, go up the tower. The wild Pokemon here are all unidentified ghosts, not Pokemon, for the first time. You can't battle them, you can't catch them, and all you can do is run. There are some trainers here and some items here, but you'll get forced into a battle that blocks near the top. There's no way past it. We have to give up for now, so we leave. Down in Lavender again, we hear rumors of a Mr. Fuji. He's a sort of caretaker for Pokemon, runs the orphanage in Lavender, and just is a general caring soul. He may be useful to talk to, but he went up the tower due to Team Rocket causing issues up there. We are seemingly stuck with nothing to do here. The only way right now is our goal towards Celadon, as south is the roadblock of Snorlax we saw east of Vermilion earlier. Let's head on to Celadon. Celadon City is quite large, the largest we have seen since Saffron. It's currently off limits though. Cafes, multi-level shopping center, gambling, all the things fun for a child. Shopping malls become a sort of staple in the franchise, giving a large spread of items, your usual share at every mart, TMs that can be bought, as well as many items you'd like, evolutionary stones and more. It has a lot and you'd be hard-pressed not to have something useful there. There is as much as a staple as gambling is. For younger players out there, this may be weird or you simply haven't noticed. Game corners appear in every generation, but we're slowly filtered out to be less focused on gambling in that aspect. In Gen 1, there were slots. That's quite obvious. Newer gens have them replaced with less explicitly gambling type games. This was mainly to keep that E rating due to stricter laws relating to gambling, knocking that age rating up. Thank you, ESRB. Thanks to this, I cannot teach children to gamble away their parents' pensions. For example, now we see games that work similar to Minesweeper or just something that isn't strictly slots. More just mini games that you can bet with money. Game corners are interesting as they oftentimes have pretty sick rewards. Some rare TMs or other huge items. The biggest ones, of course, we see here is Pokemon. For Gen 1, rare ones like Porygon, Scyther, Pinsir, and Dratini are all here. Sometimes this might have been the only way to get them through normal game means. The coin count is absurdly high. Even with save states and fast forward button in my Fire Red playthrough, it still took way too damn long to get. While neat, I cannot imagine a whole lot of kids really getting into slot machines anyways. I feel like it loses interest way too fast. Cool thing that always sticks out to me is the building where you get Eevee at the top. It's super nice as you can use said stones from the department store to get your Eevee evolved of your choosing almost right away if you'd like. It's good especially if you're missing a team slot skill. There's a big story event to work out here as we see Team Rocket shifting around here. For now, we can go to the Celadon gym once we feel cheated on by the system that is consumerism or crippling gambling addiction. Pick your poison really. The gym is run by Erica, the grass type leader. Only women are in this gym, a trait that I probably wouldn't have noticed if not for the weird old fart that sits outside liking the trainers. The character arc of him changing his word from beautiful women to strong trainers was definitely due to the fact that he saw the error of his ways for looking at a gender as a stereotype and not for who they actually were. He was not breaking down the many qualities that make up a human being. This guy is really old, looking at very young women. I'm gonna bet some of these aren't even adults. Definitely not trying to skip those charges of being a Minecraft YouTuber, I guess. Go to the jail with that one sailor who likes feisty kids. There is no puzzle here. If you want shortcuts, you can use cut to open up pathways to Erica in the middle. Burn her grass types down and move on. With 4 badges under your belt, the next destination would be south to Fuchsia City. We are stuck, however, because we get the surprise guest appearance of Snorlax number 2! Both tubbies are blocking the way forward, so we remain stuck. Before the Snorlax, you can grab the HM Fly. This HM is honestly not terrible. It's a 2-turn flying type move, where the first turn actually hides the user because they fly up in the air. Not god-awful for sure, Fly is more notable for being the main method of fast travel. This does limit your choices, as flying types usually are some of the only learners of this move. Charmander lovers are probably happy to hear that, since Charizard can learn it, well, if you're playing yellow, Charizard can learn Fly. Red and Blue do not have this added yet. Whoopsie. As alluded to, Team Rocket is here in town. One is suspiciously in the game corner, and when spoken to, he fights you to reveal his secret hideout underground. The Rocket Game Corner is our first look at a dungeon comprised of just the villainous team. It is mainly a lot of fights, some puzzles, notably the spinny arrow puzzles. The other thing I really want to note is my favorite character in the whole world. Dumbass Team Rocket guy with the lift key. TM. You speak to him and he asks if the elevator isn't working. Somebody may have the lift key. When you beat him, he just drops it, staring at you. Like, this is just so goofy. I don't care if this was intentional or some translation error, but kept around for the memes, but this goofy guy just gets my approval. Oh no, I dropped the lift key.
Ah, darn it, I dropped the lift key?
right next to my Sonic the Hedgehog chili dog socks? Oh no! How am I gonna get the lift key? Oh no! At the end, we get our first look at this leader of Team Rocket, so to speak, here at the hideout. Giovanni is the leader of Team Rocket, and he challenges you to a battle. He has no motivation, really, besides taking over the world, taking Pokemon, and all that nonsense. You beat him, and he actually gives you a reward. This is the Sylph Scope, a tool made by a large tech conglomerate based out of Saffron. The use is that it can be used to see what is not seen, apparently, a tool that we could definitely use to combat the ghosts out in Lavender. Odd that the leader of Rocket gave us a tool to save another man held hostage by his own boys in another town, but oh well. Maybe Giovanni is respectable in that regard, and he acknowledges your power and yields when beat. What a guy! So backtracking to Lavender, we see the plotline finish up where the main ghost was the deceased Marowak that died due to Team Rocket's interference. Mr. Fuji looking after its child now, of course. You beat the Marowak, and it moves on to the afterlife peacefully. You could save Mr. Fuji, drive out the rockets here as well, and get the Poke Flute for your troubles. The main use for the flute is to wake up those Snorlaxes blocking your path, so let's do that. The stretch from Lavender to Fuchsia is extraordinarily unremarkable, so we'll skip that. The main path I'd like to think is Cycling Road, from Celadon to Fuchsia. Catch or beat up Snorlax in your way and be forced onto your bike. This must be a certain asshole's dream, a road that can only be traversed by bicycle, aka the most insufferable people that you'll ever meet in the city. Cycling is a must here, and it goes rather fast, giving you avoid trainers en route. We make it eventually to Fuchsia and have a lot to get done around here. Fuchsia's main attraction outside the gym is a Safari Zone. Let us take out the gym first, however. Koga, a trainer of poison types, does not mess around with his Pokemon. The level jump is quite large here from Erica to Koga. On the same level with next leader Sabrina. His gym is kinda neat. Invisible walls are lined up in the gym and you gotta navigate there. Wipe him before he wipes you and move on. He gives us access to HM Surf, which you may or may not have yet depending on if you did the Safari Zone or not. Here's another staple, a wildlife area where the catching mechanics play out a little bit differently. It works as an all-you-can-catch time trial around the many zones. There are some unique and rare Pokemon here, but moving along shows the end, so to speak, of this place. This may take a few tries for beginners due to the time limit being around how many steps you take, not actual time limit. The path to the end is quite unique, and therein you will find a little rest house where the workers give you the HM Surf. My argument for the best HM in most of the series, it allows traversal across water, of course, but it's a solid water move. One of the best balancing out accuracy to power in my eyes. This is a move I don't feel shame having my water type hold on to. You also want to grab the gold teeth. It's found here luckily near the surf house. Bring those back to the Safari Warden in Fuchsia as he was unable to be understood without his dentures. He gives you the HM Strength. Outside of battle this cannot be used yet as we will need the Marsh Badge from Sabrina. But might as well get this now. It's a normal type move that does a pretty solid chunk of physical damage. It's not awful, pretty mundane of a move, but if you got normal type it's probably pretty good. Surf does not do anything for us yet, specifically, but with all of this, we finally should be able to prepare to infiltrate Saffron City. You may wonder, how may you get past the airtight security? How do you sneak to the impregnable fortress that is this metropolis? Drink. The guards are all thirsty. You can give them a fucking bottle of water and they're so happy that they let you in. Bribery, children, it works. That's how you get anywhere in life. Newer games, they give you a form of a key item like tea, but I find it funny in the original games, you could just buy literally any drink from a vending machine in Celadon. Anyways, you could do this as soon as you get to Celadon, of course, but many things are blocked off at first. First, Team Rocket is swarming the city. They are everywhere, blocking the houses, shops, and even the main gym. Yes, the main one. First off our checklist is a giant elephant in the room, the second gym right next to the first.
What inspired you to build a second Krusty Krab right next door to the original? Money!
The second one is actually the fighting dojo. There are some trainers here and a sort of mini-boss you can get one or two fighting types of Pokemon Hitmonchan or Hitmonlee. They're cool as you can't really get them anywhere else. We can't enter the true Saffron gym right now, we'll just have to enter the other giant building at the center of the city. It's the foreshadowed Sylph Co. If you get here too early, there is a guard at the entrance though, so just be in mind there. You can slip in though and infiltrate one of the longest dungeons in the game. The Sylph Co building is tricky, loaded with rockets up the ass. A high-tech company even has turncoats of scientists and the like working for Rocket, probably helping this takedown be even easier in the giant building. The company is so advanced that normal walking is for chumps here, and let's have random-ass warp tiles. This adds to the trickiness, especially before you gain the card key. Many doors remain shut otherwise. Getting through here can be grueling, but nothing stops you from healing. Throughout all of this, Blue, the dumbass, shows up and decides to fight you here. I mean, there's probably bigger priorities at play, but sure, man. This is a pretty tough battle. His Pokemon are pretty tough to beat at this point, have high levels, and also have probably starters fully evolved. You hopefully have a strategy at this point to counteract nicely, but kick his ass, move on to the top floor. Giovanni's there having a talk with the president of Sylph. You fight Giovanni again, and once again he respectfully leaves. What a guy. Why are we fighting him again? The president thanks you from saving him and talking with the polite Giovanni. He gives you the Master Ball out of his respect. I haven't really touched them on Pokeballs, but they have different catch rates, as I'm sure we all know. And the Master Ball is 100% guarantee. The one in the entire game makes your choice a bit more hard, as you don't really want to waste it on something stupid. With the leave of Giovanni, Saffron is free from Rocket, and you can take on the gym by now. If you like warp tile puzzles, hope you like them again. Saffron is that. Sabrina is the Psychic-type gym leader. In Gen 1, Psychic was broken. Good luck. With her defeated, the second-to-last gym lies out in the far isolated Cinnabar Island. We need to serve, and by proxy, a sort of water Pokemon to ride the waves. Crossing the sea is rather unremarkable, but we see Cinnabar, the tiny little island. There's a lot to do here. First up is a Pokemon Lab, where you can revitalize the fossil Pokemon you picked up way back in Mount Moon, as well as the old Amber, if you went to the museum to grab that. The gym is locked, and we need a key to get in. Aside from the usual houses and whatnot, a giant abandoned mansion rests at the north of the island. I guess let's go there and looking for this said key. The Pokemon Mansion is a rundown place, littered with burglars, rats, and other general oddballs. The puzzles here are a bit tricky, but this place is notable for the lore around here, specifically for the Pokemon Mewtwo. I won't pretend like he doesn't exist. One of the most iconic Pokemon of Gen 1, a lot of cool-ass lore rests here. In basement, we find the key to Cinnabar Gym and can challenge Blaine, the island's leader. This dude loves quizzes, so much that he makes you pass his game show to make it to him. It's a unique setup, I'll admit. Take on the Fire-type leader, though. Afterwards, you most likely have nothing else to go or do for the gym, then return to Viridian for the last gym test. Well, let's hope the leader returned. Back at Viridian, the gym leader returning is seemingly the talk of the town. We enter, and even the employees do not know who the leader is due to his absence. Well, if the moving tiles don't hint it to you, it's the polite boss that has been up our ass the entirety of this game, Giovanni. He is similar to the fights we've seen before, commanding a mostly ground-type gym. He can be brutal, but you can triumph and defeat the shady ethics of why the Pokemon League lets a criminal mob boss also run the strongest gym in Kanto. I mean, it's not like he made himself hidden. I'm sure Sylph Co-President had some connections to influential people up in the league. You're telling me that someone didn't piece things together? Whatever. In good old Geo's fashion, when beaten, he takes the loss like a champ, decides to leave the gym leader business and disband Team Rocket all in one fell swoop. What an absolutely nice lad. Why did we fight him? I'm gonna miss him. He's so nice. With all 8 badges, we can head to the league. Blue has to cockblock us one more time, however, and fights us in the same place he did after our first trip to Viridian. Now, we go through the league gates, and it's honestly a very cool experience. The music is imposing, and something about going down this long path, getting stopped by each guard to verify you have the badges is such a cool experience. And call me odd, I really like the more out-of-the-way approach this was. Newer games make this less of a spectacle, and I really miss it. It carries a weight that is not there for more recent adventures. It really kind of helps you reflect on your journey, and is a true test. I don't know, I can't really talk about it like anything else. There is one final grueling test, however, and that's Victory Road. This is another tunnel full of the toughest trainers, many Pokemon, and puzzles to hold you back. Use all you got here, go wild. Here's where you'll find Moltres, one of the legendary birds in Gen 1 here. Just chillin'. It kind of feels out of place, but poor Moltres always never seems to have a specific home. Legendary Pokemon are another series staple. Take a shot every time I say series staple, your liver will be dead. Gen 1 only has a few, luckily, and legendary birds are our main 3. Moltres sits at Victory Road. I skipped over the others, but Articuno is at the bottom of Seafoam Islands, another optional dungeon south of Fuchsia, and Zapdos is at the power plant. It's once again, another optional dungeon, taking a small path to using Surf right before Rock Tunnel. You can get some cool Pokemon and items out the way, but get them if you want. Some people use legendaries on their team, some people stand by never using them, so do what you want, really. Legendary Pokemon are a once per game type of ordeal. Save your game, try to catch them. Their catch rates are pretty atrocious, so good luck. Back at the road, we finally end and reach Indigo Plateau, where the league sits. The final challenge of the league is facing off against the Elite Four. As the name cleverly implies, you fight 4 trainers back to back, them being the toughest in the region. Gym leaders on crack, if you will. You are warned, you cannot turn back. It's victory or loss. Get prepared, level your team, buy items, fill up the Pokedex, maybe pray. I don't know, man. Step through the gate when ready. I love the concept of the Elite Four, too. In Gen 1 sets the tone. First in the block is Lorelei, an Ice-type user. Next is Bruno, a Fighting-type legend. Third is Agatha, utilizing Ghost types as old as her. And finally the Dragon Tamer Lance. These four bring some tough cookies, and anything less than a balanced team can spell trouble. Dragon types being notorious for their power and wide array of resistances. At the end of it all, Lance congratulates you. Normally he would crown you champion, but someone beat you to it. And of course it's motherfucking Blue. The final fight we have in Pokemon is with Blue, the now strongest trainer in Kanto. He is tough, but you should know his team very well as strengths and weaknesses. Show the smug bastard who is the better trainer, for God's sake. Be a Pokemon master. You finally leave this asshole speechless. To rub it in, Oak, his grandfather, arrives to chastise him more. I mean, it's gotta suck. Your grandpa, who is one of, if not the most important people in the entire region, left his lab to personally congratulate you on becoming the strongest trainer in the region. He makes the trek out to find that his grandson got dethroned by his neighbor after holding the title for probably 20 goddamn minutes. That's gotta sting. Hope you have some burn heal. Regardless, you and Oak head to the Hall of Champions, a place to record the team that carried you here. Before the credits roll, you see a victory montage of your teammates. It's an awesome feeling. The team that you built for dozens of hours, including your starter most likely, the one who is with you on every leg of this journey. It's a feeling that I'm sure many Pokemon fans get when getting to this point. A wave of many emotions take place, maybe. A feeling that helped me make me a Pokemon fan to begin with. It may never get old. I hope it doesn't at the very least. It's such a cool thing to just see it at the end. Pokemon Yellow was one of the first games I ever beat. This was a wonderful experience for the time. I loved a lot of aspects about it. Pikachu was never really my favorite Pokemon, but a lot of love and charm he holds was from this game. He follows you around, you can interact with him, you see his mood, and it's awesome. He slowly warms up to you. It's a really cool feeling. Gen 1 holds a special place in many people's hearts. It was a feeling unlike any other, and hell, it was a game unlike any other. Magic that may feel lost when we grow up. Something that sucks to lose. Who didn't want to be in the world of Pokemon? It was magnificent. And honestly, man, with all this being said, don't play Gen 1. Alright, this game is like spoiled milk, man. Look, it did a lot, but the remakes do more than just make graphics prettier. This game was terribly messy at times. Obviously, it does some things right, as the series is massive because this game was so damn successful. Playing this felt more of a chore on repeat runs. Quality of life is spoiling me, I'll be damned, but I do not care. Sure, Pikachu following you is cool, you can get all the starters, it's awesome. Bank space sucks, status effects suck, the typing system and unbalanced nature sucks. So many moves do nothing here, it's all around messy. Maybe in the best ways at times, sure, but I would skip these games if I'm being honest. The remakes are so much better here. This is the segue of all time as I skip to the next section of this massive talk of Gen 1. So, wrapping up Red, Blue, Yellow, and Green, they created a great base for Pokemon. The series staples that introduced here are plenty. So much was done right on the first attempt. Just the games have improved greatly since, and arguably declined again, but I digress. Kanto as a whole of a region though? Well, we'll see my full thoughts in due time. Story was heavy here, but we can talk about more things like Pokemon characters, music, and scenery a little bit more as we get into the newer generations. So let's transition. While Yellow was the first game for me, Leaf Green may hold a little bit more of my childhood long term, as I played this version a hell of a lot more. I've already introduced this game kind of already, but this is Fire Red and Leaf Green, released for the Game Boy Advance in 2004, so let's get ready to dive in. Well, again. So the main team members were all here, roles still changed a bit. As stated, Junichi Masuda is now director, and with the rest of the team contributing in some way. Not being 10 years after the release of the Game Boy Classics, a move that would make current fans irked, including me. A lot of change in this time for both Pokemon and series, the technology included. Pokemon was in Generation 3 at this time. There was more Pokemon, more regions, more games, but included were a lot of gameplay changes that make more types and more balancing and all that stuff. Steel types and dark types, changes with Bug, Poison, and Psychic and Ghost. Pokemon discovered gender finally. Shiny Pokemon, more items, more moves, Pokemon abilities, double battles, effort values, special defense, and attack now being separate. God, there was a lot. Reception was solid, doing great. The sales were good as well. Not doing the numbers as Ruby and Sapphire, but that's a whole new gen. You kind of have to give it some slack. The upgrades were still great, being an amazing leap in a short game, giving a whole new wave of nostalgia. Welcome back to Kanto. We see our boy Red here, as this is more or less remakes in story as well to Red and Blue. In addition, we see the age-old question from Oak, are you a boy or a girl? The female character is now here for Kanto. Not for the series, mind you, that privilege goes to Crystal having the first in the series. For this character, she's usually green, completing the main 3 colors, sorry yellow. It doesn't change anything else, but obviously a mainstay in basically every Pokemon game since. The graphics and music are fresh, but the core still stays the same. Everything starts as you remember, but with more vibrance to everything. It definitely is nostalgia, but the sound of Fire Red and Leaf Green just gave me the feeling of happiness unlike any other. Battling is great too. The sprites look quite awful in the original games. Here it actually looks like Pokemon are battling now. Another thing I may take for granted here is running shoes. These are gifted right after Brock and allow you to run. Thank God. You cannot run in most buildings now, but man, it helps pick up the game a lot more for runbacks and dungeons. It has more use and controls better than the bike, even if not as fast. Quality of life here cannot fully be given credit. Bag space is separated to balls, key items, and more single use. Even things like TM case exist, neatly storing any and all TMs and HMs. Speaking of space, Pokemon boxes have better storage. They are way organized that the boxes can be viewed at a glance in a very well appreciated manner for me. Lastly, a few new additions that I might as well add are the Versus Seeker. This is a helpful tool that you can get. Use it to challenge trainers on the routes. This doesn't work for all of them nor every time. It is helpful since trainers shell out more money and more EXP, even at equal levels to that of wild Pokemon. The only thing that you need to do here is walk a tiny bit to recharge the Seeker and, well, infinite battles. Very great and underrated. Lastly of the items I want to mention is the Fame Checker, a very novel item, but given rather early when Blue is beaten before Nugget Bridge. It's a glorified lore book for Gym Leader and other high-end characters of note. Reading signs, books, talking to NPCs, all fill out the Fame Checker, giving insight to all the folks here. Yeah, good enough as transition to any is to talk about the gym leaders as people. I like the gym concept. While the practice may be a little bit mundane in every generation for the most part, having these people that are seen as the toughest trainers in each region as sort of celebrities is kind of cool. It adds to the lore and believability of the world and structure. Newer generations do a great job at adding the world building with the leaders being integrated a little bit more into the world. Unova mixed a lot of their leaders into running professions on the side. Lenora runs the gym as well as the Pokemon Museum, or Skyla also being a pilot. Galar does some great things to a degree as well, with a heavy emphasis on being akin to a large-scale sporting match. The gyms were giant stadiums, perfect for setting the stage for these matches, as they showed how serious they took the gym leaders and the challenge. Really felt like the best of the best in that region's main sport. It was fun. Kanto does not do this as much. Older games did not have as much to flesh out some things as we see, go figure again here. Jumping a bit ahead, in Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, they did retroactively add the seating and spectators to each gym, which I do appreciate. However, the small the detail may appear on the outside, it's a genuinely cool addition in my opinion. Gym leaders do need to be iconic in my eyes, and Gen 1 has a lot going for these folk. While their roles in Kanto may not be fully fleshed out, these 8 have a lot of time to build their notoriety, that and to do having the anime and everything else I remember watching as a kid. The Pokemon Adventures manga was also super sick as well. Honestly, go read that if you haven't. And many supplemental games for the long span we have seen for Gen 1. Starting with one of the most iconic is Pewter City's Brock. Brock was this long-standing companion of Ash Ketchum in the anime. His design, while rather simplistic, is very good. His role in the anime fits many roles. He's sort of a more experienced trainer than the others because he is, well, older. He's also the comic relief, chef, and a general horny-ass dude. Down bad for most women. Hey man, I get it. Brock in these games is a lot more toned down, being seemingly stoic and fair judging, making sense as a first game's leader. As the first roadblock many trainers in a Kanto journey may see, he is well respected and keeps a cool demeanor, a trait that befits a rock-type trope. Let's go add some of his anime quirks a bit, but let's still keep the core game Brock the same. The job isn't really super clear. He allegedly helps out with fossil excavation in Mount Moon, as well as in Let's Go he is said to dabble into Pokemon breeding, so that's cool. Next up is equally iconic is Misty of Cerulean City. Known to be the tomboyish mermaid, this girl keeps a similar design but seemingly has a distinct age difference from the anime to game counterpart. The anime has her a lot closer to Ash's age of 10, while the games definitely show her as a late teen and some of the obviously remakes show her older up, like in Gold and Silver. Looking into the script now too, Misty's age in the anime ranged from somewhere around like 10 to 12. Like I said, made sense because Ash was 10 for literally the entire anime, but the thing I found interesting was Brock was 15. 15. Ain't no fucking way. Anyways, the anime continues to make me feel old. Eccentric Misty from the anime is not pronounced as the game, similar to Brock. seems to have a competitive swimmer edge going on. There's a lot to mentioning about training in the seas, as well as her gym having a pool design. Not too much of a personality department in the games aside. Kinda a shame. Keeping the personality here would have been great, considering she's a very well-loved character. You can also include Brock's into this argument of maybe expanding their characters a bit. Vermilion's Lieutenant Surge is Guile from Street Fighter. Evidence? America. While the Pokemon regions are all taken quite directly from actual regions of Japan, the games have dropped that Lieutenant Surge may be from America. Kinda weird, but the list of questions doesn't end here. With the lieutenant part of his name being there, you can assume he served in a sort of army, to which you'd be correct. A supposed well-respected man in the war. Which war? The war. The theories get wacky with this one, but it goes to the point that his more cautious personality with the trap gym and the likelihood that the main reason for using electric Pokemon could be the fact that his life was saved by them. Makes me very curious how effective their use was. I'd have to assume they would have to be a makeshift defibrillator or something like that, but that's kind of nuts. His military-esque design sticks through each game, as well as being a sort of loud personality, a potential caricature on Americans, or just of a battle-hardened veteran, maybe a little bit of both. He respects guts of people though, making him take a liking to you after the battle wins. In Celadon, we see Erica, purveyor of grass-type Pokemon. Seemingly a bit airheaded or at least relaxed to the point of dozing off midday in her gym. She, like many grass-type trainers, collect Pokemon as a sort of beauty competition. Her shrine maintenance aesthetic combined with the hobby of flower arranging, another commonality with a more traditional style of Japanese culture. These two are often associated together as she is almost always seen in a kimono to some degree. Aside from a general interest in grass, Pokemon, and a degree of botany maybe, there is an added title of nature-loving princess. Now, there's nothing that actually shows her as being a princess, mind you, probably just a title. Sorry to rip that away from you all, I'm sure you guys are also heartbroken to find out that Misty is not actually a mermaid. Keeping fantasy tropes, though, is Koga. While Fuchsia has a big soul safari attached, Koga is a ninja. The two don't really seem to be connected in my opinion, but apparently he patrols the zones frequently, keeping them safe. His sinister nature of poison types, causing pain and horror to the foes, does seem to be a little off-putting. Maybe hopping back to what does Kanto need a ninja who can poison foes in addition to a lieutenant who's fought in wars? Like, what the hell has happened in these games prior? Additionally, he takes on traits that you typically see in a ninja archetype character. Disciplined, calculated, intense. He trains others in the way of ninjutsu, as well as other studies, medicines, and their qualities, probably as antidotes for the poison-type Pokemon he holds. Once again, still a little bit of scary thought if you need to concoct antidotes for the same poisons you are potentially poisoning people with. Well, anyways, Sabrina of Saffron is psychic, seemingly sharing her Pokemon-type preference with her actual powers. Claimed to have them since she was a child, including that of mind-reading abilities. She seems reserved and or not open to conversing with humans as much. It is said she telepathically communicates with her Pokemon. Apparently, she also knocked down the fighting dojo as it was previously a gym status prior. Unsure of how that really fully works. I mean, back to Sword and Shield, I believe there was mention of gyms of all types cycling through each time a new league challenge starts up. Maybe something similar to Kanto exists, or others can challenge and potentially dethrone leaders if capable. Most evidence clearly points to gym leaders for the most part holding back as their potential, as clearly people like Brock ain't one of the best trainers in the entire region with a level 12 Onix. The league putting a cap on each leader is all but confirmed, having multiple teams to face challengers at different levels. Some regions allow an out-of-order path, as I previously mentioned, to be followed for gym leaders, so maybe Kanto could be technically gone in whatever order works best for location-wise in each trainer of that league. Tangent on my Sabrina section, but honestly she doesn't kind of have a whole lot of munch at the game sadly. Like her design a lot though. Next up is Blaine of Cinnabar. I love this guy a lot. A goofy old man in love of game shows and quizzes. His fiery personality matches his Pokemon type. Living on Cinnabar before the lab was even there, he is good friends with Lavender's Mr. Fuji. They allegedly did some research together on Cinnabar, all of this pointing to them working in the Pokemon Mansion and having some sort of hand with the creation of Mewtwo to some degree. Now, I believe there is some differences between the games and anime and manga, all changing what exact relation Blaine and Fuji held with Mewtwo. In the manga specifically, Blaine was an ex-researcher for Team Rocket. Seriously, read the manga, it's super cool. Still mess with the idea that this man could have done a lot of heinous and awful things with people and Pokemon, but now retired, is just a goofy old guy that thinks of new quiz puzzles on his little island. Compare that with Mr. Fuji who runs an orphanage. What the hell did these two experience? Lastly is the main man Giovanni of Viridian, Team Rocket's leader. We see him the most out of any of the leaders, due to in part the 3 battles we have with him. Obviously, he is moonlighting as one of these 2 jobs, really not sure as Viridian's gym seemingly left abandoned. Once again, curious about the hiring process they go through and any subsequent background checks as I said, but in my story section, he is rather fair for a villain. He takes his losses with pride and doesn't seem to be terribly underhanded to the player. His goal is not super laid out, he wants Pokemon, strong Pokemon. This is why Team Rocket steals Pokemon and is trying to find the best of the best in the world. This is to assumedly take control of Kanto and or the world to display sort of raw power. A classic role for the Pokemon villains, usually utilizing the Pokemon as tools for power, status, and destruction. This runs contrary to the player and their entourage with the idea that Pokemon are companions, friends, and a mutual coexistence rather than purely hierarchy and dominance. We see the stealing of Silph products like the Scope as well as an attempt to possess the Master Ball. With that, you can catch any Pokemon you want with no issue. Giovanni is interesting, clearly not trying to hide his role as Rocket's lead a whole lot. I mean, hell, his appearance stays the same. His gym is comprised of trainers who seemingly not affiliated with Team Rocket. They all follow typing to a degree of ground, his forte. I always assumed gym leaders had a sort of say in picking members for this gym. I mean, most trainers of a gym usually gas up their respective leader anyways, so either they have sort of admiration for them or just big brown nosers. Many of Giovanni's crew don't seem to know him personally. It makes me wonder whether or not Giovanni picked the team at random for a sort of disguise or found trainers in the same field who he simply respected with their talents. An interesting angle for the game's villain. If the latter rings true, it really isn't held up with any solid foundation, just more of a theory that I kind of like to go with. While you may think in a kid's game the villain doing something underhanded to maybe, hurt or kill the player might be a little out there because, this is a kid's game and that's a child. However, some later games villains do that. I do say the respect for Giovanni is quite there. He just kind of takes his losses. He knows when he's beat and doesn't really want to stick through with it. He disbands the team when he loses. I don't know, something about that just kind of gives me a little bit of a respectable air to him. He doesn't go down with a fit and he just says, yep, I lost. I know when I'm beat. I tried. I don't know. Maybe he's not persistent enough to some people, but hey, I think it's cool regardless. That's the gym leaders in a nutshell. While personality doesn't really seem to shine through like another game specifically, be it nostalgia, pure design, or something else I cannot fathom, I do like the 8 we see here. They're all strong and serve as great entry to the franchise's main hurdles. Good stuff. Now, of course, we have to mention the Elite Four. As I said earlier, the Elite Four have to have some sort of intimidating presence to them. The best 4 trainers in all of Kanto having to be fought back to back without rest to prove you are the champion of the region is daunting to say the least. Let's look at them a bit here as well. First up is Lorelei. Ace types is her bread and butter. Personality-wise, there isn't much to truly go on. Seems to have a, no pun intended, cool demeanor about her. Her design stays pretty consistent. Keeping with this office lady teacher vibe is kind of with her, as well as the serious expression and signature glasses. It helps with the intimidating, cold, calculated sort of methodology with her, and I really do like the look, not just because she's hot, but it works with her general intimidating aura she holds. Bruno next up is our fighting champion, as I said. Rather stereotypical personality for the vocation. A serious, stoic man with the desire to fight strong trainers. He pretty much holds the same design throughout each of the games, and really that's about it as well. In my own headcanon is that he was the Saffron gym leader, but when he left to go join the Elite Four for a stronger challenge, Sabrina slid in to usurp her gym over the fighting dojo. I feel like there's got to be some relation to him and the dojo at the very least. Next up is Agatha, apparently Professor Oak's side piece. Besides being the oldest in the Indigo League by a good stretch, she commands the closest Pokemon to her age, the dead ones. She has a bit more than her previous 2 co-workers, as she has been around the block training for years above them. Her history with Oak goes back to youth. Comments about her admiration for both his ability as a trainer and general appearance may lead to some interesting speculation, but does not see the same as she once was. Most likely a fallout of old rivals or something more turned sour as Agatha moved more for pure power, focusing on the Elite Four, as Oak clearly stepped back as a trainer to focus on research. Most likely to me, it was losing a longtime rival made her a little bit more bitter, but hey, I dig the creepy grandma look. It honestly works. Lastly is Lance, the Dragon Tamer. Dragon-type Pokemon have always been notoriously difficult to take down, well, until Fairy types. The raw strength, the moveset capability, the very few weaknesses make them formidable foes to battle. In reverse, they can prove to be a challenge to train, oftentimes being incredibly rare and having high-level thresholds to even evolve. It makes a few Dragon types in each generation usually stand out and can fit any role on a team. Cheater Lance has a team of them. In reality, the earlier games stretch the concept of Dragon types. Like a lot of trainers, they may not always fit into the mold 100%. Gyarados, Charizard, and Aerodactyl are all seen with Lance, but do not actually incorporate a Dragon type, regardless of their design. Lance has been known to have Dragon types under the level that they should evolve, see Dragonite especially in Gen 2. His role gets a tad fleshed out more due to his appearance in the 2nd gen, but other than those games, we see him as the head of the Elite Four. He has a close commune with the Dragon-type Pokemon and takes pride in their raising and training. The superhero vibe he gives off with his cape is also pretty iconic as well. The overly spiky hair and strong sense of sort of justice and honor seems apparent. As you'd expect of one who closely follows dragons, he resembles a modern-day knight. I mean, the name itself is one of the most popular Knights of the Round Table, Lancelot. Once again, I think the design is nailed here. He appears to most likely be the youngest out of the Elite Four, but still commands them. No words of undermining are muttered. The Kanto residents know him and respect him too. A guy who seems to be the strongest trainer in Kanto proper. He fits the role in every way. I may be biased again, but the Elite Four of Gen 1 do an amazing job at showing the top tier and elite of trainers. They radiate an energy that gives some backing to their power and clout. Now, obviously, you would expect me to mention Blue here, as he's the most fought NPC and final boss of the game. I'll get to him in due time. I need to get some other stuff out first, of course. So back to Fire Red and Leaf Green, the story as explained follows a near beat-for-beat walkthrough of the games preceding it. The biggest change we start to see is the Sevi Islands. Mostly post-game content, but after the defeat of Blaine, Bill runs into us and invites us to the Sevi Islands. We have off-rip 3 islands to explore, aptly named 1, 2, and 3 Island. Lovely. There is a short side quest of things to do here, and know what to do. It can be done very quickly. It follows a bunch of random stuff, saving a child from getting diddled by a hypno, and then we head back. The rest of the islands are unlocked for a post-game romp, and the National Dex is unlocked. Isles 4 through 7 have a lot more plot, as we have now access to non-Kanto Pokemon. The amount you could catch is admittedly small, but you could trade over from the home-in games if you so wish. A quick overview for I guess those curious. One island has a giant Pokemon Center where Bill spends his plot time there. North of the small town is a coastal and rocky path with the hot springs as a sort of checkpoint. At the farthest north is Mount Ember. It serves a whole lot of nothing besides being the point where Moltres can be caught, feeling like they have a proper home as opposed to just being some random ass place in Victory Road. 2 Island is rather small but has a little town square for shopping and games. To the north is the Scenic Cape. 3 Island has a town like the rest but has a bridge connecting to the Berry Forest. Berries are a sort of held item that can do a wide array of stuff. Commonplace in most Pokemon games now, Berry Forest is where the Hypnos lie waiting to prey on children, I guess.
I am.
You gotta be patient for that.
Just a hug?
No hug for me?
I'm sorry?
No hug for me?
4 Island is another small one. Home to Elite Four's Lorelei. She trains here whenever she visits. Aside from that, there is a large daycare and a cavern full of ice-type Pokemon. Most definitely some inspiration for Lorelei's type of choosing. 5, 6, and 7 all have unique scenery as well as different areas, mainly focusing on a lot of Gen 2 Pokemon. The post-game side quest involves you taking out some remnants of Team Rocket, specifically in a warehouse on Isle 5. The land is rather left untouched, for the most part, allowing to have a lot more natural views and cool ruins to be explored. 7 gives rise to a battle tower equivalent, another common stay in the Pokemon series where players can challenge a gauntlet of powerful opponents, usually with restrictions like level and team amount. I should add there are extra islands only for events for some legendaries like Deoxys, but those are pretty much unattainable unless through non-conventional methods. Damn you Pokemon and your damn time events. It's an overall cool addition. I like the added lore and opportunities to catch some Johto Pokemon. Optional too for the most part, so if you want a streamlined remake, you can mostly do that. The main story is pretty quick if you are in the know for the Sevi Islands. Ending off Leaf Green and Fire Red, they are amazing remakes and was the standard set for quite some time. I feel they were the go-to for game emulation as well. I remember high school, some of the emulators on the phone became large and everyone was replaying Fire Red and Leaf Green. It felt cool as I could talk about Pokemon with everyone like it was nothing. For a while I kept it to myself because barely anyone else played Pokemon or past the first gen or two growing out of it. It's just some good memories for me, at the very least. That about covers it for the Game Boy Advance games, but now I think it's time we finally switch up the formula. Where you guys be without me? Rumors were flying off the handle with the Switch. Pokemon was primarily handheld. Spin-off games and the like were seen on consoles. Being a hybrid of the two, the 3DS slowly getting pushed off to the side, it was obvious to expect the next mainline Pokemon games to make their presence here on the Nintendo Switch. I heard whispers about a Gen 1 remake at this time, and I was all for it. Seeing the Switch remake of Kanto was running through my head at the possibilities. I could just not prepare for the truth we received. Mainly because I overlooked one large aspect that shook the world by storm just as much as Pokemon did when Gen 1 first hit its shelves. Of course, it's Pokemon Go. The revitalized Pokemon felt like no other. I say this with a large asterisk, as sales would show that the Pokemon series never really fell off, and that is true. Pokemon Go, however, skyrocketed back into more mainstream than it was for a good decade or so. Everyone played this game. I'm sure most know the summer of 2016, a surreal experience for anyone interested in the game. Pokemon Go has enough to talk about and warranted its own video, however, but that is not the subject nor focal point here. Its success has to be noted for the next set of the games, though. This led to a potential controversial game design choices for the next in the series here, and hey, I think looking back on the Switch Pokemon games, this might be the least controversial when the dust settled. Pokemon fans never cease to be interesting. They hate the series and also forever defend them at the same time. Should probably be studied. Lastly, time to finish this off. This is going to be Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Pokemon Let's Go Eevee, released for the Switch in 2018. Almost done. Let's dive in. Again. Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, as the names imply, show us a lot of things. For one, they are clearly based on the Kanto remakes, specifically looking at Pokemon Yellow and by extension the anime. Pikachu and Eevee were supposed to be the main stars, and it locked you into your chosen partner from the decision to purchase. Secondly, the game has a noticeable younger appeal. I mean, I'd argue that was always the case, but I digress. Lastly, the name, Let's Go. If you weren't aware, it's focusing on Go functionality. This was met with criticism for sure. The reasoning will be explained in just a moment. Aside from all that junk, we see the usual Game Freak team with them adding they wanted to resonate with a younger crowd, not just appeal to nostalgia, as well as make this a welcome entry point to those new to the series, and for somebody who's never touched the games. I mean, it really makes sense. I can imagine a whole new generation of kids growing up with mobile games, not really playing quote-unquote real games. Pokemon probably introduced just as many as it reintroduced some. Piggybacking off of Go's success was a no-brainer if I'm being completely honest. It became one of the best-selling Switch games with mostly favorable reviews, averaging an 8 out of 10. Now, modern day shows that both new generations of Pokemon launched on the Switch dwarf the numbers that Let's Go made. 15 mil is nothing to scoff at though, however. It became less talked about over time as the newer games had a longer list of issues and critiques with general rushed design, bugs, lazy writing, and what have you. Let's go into the gameplay and story now. So first off, Yellow story. Story beats follow roughly the same. There is more focus on you and your partner Pokemon. And so Pikachu and Red, not Red? Well, oddly enough, while everything is a near remake, one thing that rings different is new characters. This is still the Kanto we knew supposedly. Jumping a bit ahead, Blue makes an appearance early on and mentions his gym challenge from back in the day. He is still Oak's grandson and not your new rival. This causes some questions in the continuity as we still deal with Team Rocket and all that junk, so yeah. I'm just gonna throw all the thoughts away as I don't really feel like committing brainpower to this. So fake Red lives where Red used to be and fake Blue lives where Blue used to be. I don't want to know their canon names. Just kidding. I learned it's Chase and Elaine for the male and female protag and Trace for the rival. Chase and Trace. My rival Tosh is out there, waiting for me to make a move. Similar to Blue, Green and Red make cameos here as well, living their lives as post-Red, Blue, and Yellow adventure, I guess. Once again, I don't really know, but whatever. New characters also make an appearance as well from older games to add continuity, I guess. Mina from the Alola region is visiting as can be seen as also Executive Rocket Archer makes a cameo as well. He serves a larger role in Gen 2, but kinda neat, setting up the scene as he never made his debut prior. Other than that, cutscenes may be changed a tad with the new characters maybe interacting with scenes a bit differently. But a lot stays similar, even to location of battles. Fake Blue is completely different than Blue, but has battles in the same places as you remember. Leaving that mess aside for now, it's time to talk shop on gameplay changes. Here we go. So the biggest change is the multifaceted change with battles and how the core gameplay loop works. No longer are typical wild battles. Encountering a wild Pokemon begins a catching minigame seen to that in Pokemon Go. This was met to some disappointment for sure, as there is not an alternative way to play. It is to play this way and only this way. Motion controls were basically made mandatory in a sense. In addition to the Pokeball Plus controller, the game is played with one Joy-Con. The control scheme clearly meant to be minimalistic, but makes playing a nuisance. Handheld allows a more traditional style of playing, but that makes grabbing footage, well, not really feasible. Any other control scheme besides motion is banned. No Pro Controller Josh today. Look, Joy-Con drift aside, I don't like these things, they suck. I never got used to them and think they are severely underwhelming. Handheld play is okay, I guess, when connected to the actual Switch, but anytime it's docked, it's a Pro Controller for me. They have motion controls to try to mimic a ball throw, it's kind of annoying. Nintendo is notorious for adding motion controls, hello Wii, but at least they usually have the decency to turn them on and off for games that isn't the sole focus, i.e. the Switch. Turning off Wii Motion seems silly. I agree there. Making it mandatory in 2018 was certainly a move, however. The catching minigame is simply not that fun. It feels somehow more hollow than Go. Maybe the fact that you can't fling the balls by tapping and sliding in Go makes it more intuitive? I don't know. The Joy-Con isn't as responsive. I didn't have a problem with Go, but maybe that's because it's expected of a fucking smartphone game. With no wild battles was met with many questions, because how would you level up? Well, trainers still make their return and play out the same. Send out your Pokemon in battle. EXP is gained from trainers as well as just catching wild Pokemon out in the overworld. Boosts come into play with things like new Pokemon, massive disparities in the average Pokemon size, and catch combos. Not a terrible idea. Catch combos work for shiny hunting in this game. It's a bitch and a half when you're trying to hit a combo of 30 only for the next Pokemon to immediately run away, breaking my streak. Let's meet in the middle and say Josh skill issue. Now lastly, the EXP share. It's not even an item in this game, it's just everyone gets experience. Very common nowadays in Pokemon, but controversial when it was introduced. Having the EXP share give AXP to everyone, even the non-battle participants, is something that makes a lot of people angry. Alright, so in the games where it's optional, leave it on or leave it off. Stop bitching. Why undermine people who want it on? It doesn't make you cool or contrarian, it just makes you a fucking douchebag. Hi, Fire Emblem fans. I'll get to you one day with the classic versus casual debate. You guys need this chill too. Now, in the games where it isn't an option, I do see why people have issues. Mainly the games are easier. Yes, kids game. Yes, Pokemon was arguably never that hard. Maybe unbalanced and added unfair difficulty. I'm of the brave opinion that it can be a toggle, that way some cannot overlevel if wanting to. This does diminish grinding as long as you are fighting a healthy dose of trainers. You shouldn't have an issue. There are still self-imposed challenges for the fans who do want to make the game tougher. That's going to be the cold, hard truth for those in denial. It probably won't change that fact. We're not going to get a super hard mode of Pokemon unless you have to force a challenge. In this game particularly, I don't think it is broken. If you're going out of your way to catch every and anything, then maybe, but it's up to the player. Gone are wild battles and all of them in the overworld. I actually love this. Seeing Pokemon in their habitat, even walking outside the grass, is cool. It was always silly that Pokemon were only attacking small patches of overgrown grass. Caves like Rock Tunnel and Mount Moon are infinitely more doable. Zubat are still god-awful, their movement still makes them one of the worst encounters, mind you. Transferring extra Pokemon lead to candies similar to Go. They can be used to power up Pokemon stats as you'd expect. I feel the game intended for this to be the case as well. Also, the addition to mess with your box at any time is super appreciated. It makes item and Pokemon management very easy. Other mechanics in Let's Go follow suit with the quality of life aspects that you've compounded for the 20 years of Pokemon run to this point. Bag spaces, movement, TM reusability, and HM dispersal. Gone are HM slaves, and your chosen partner uses specific abilities to clear obstacles that are once needed to something like cut. I'm fine with this, as it establishes the bond between you and your partner, something that is obviously a big driving point for Pokemon and its Inception, and of course the Let's Go games. But jumping onto the partner, they follow you around and remain outside your ball, like Yellow. Additionally, you can even have another Pokemon out as well following. This has been done in between Yellow and present day, but the animations for each are admittedly cool. Watching Magikarp flop ahead or an Ammonite slink behind being so slow is fun and charming. As you could guess, with the Yellow remake, things like the Sevi Islands have been eradicated off the planet. While sucky, it's not a deal breaker in the end, as the core is still here. The game has its story following along nicely as you could expect. You best all the gyms, store at Team Rocket, fill out the Pokedex, and challenge the Elite Four. At the end is your champion, Neighborhood, and Best Bunny, Fake Blue. I hate him. Alright, here it is. Look, do rivals need to be assholes? No. Do friendly rivals suck? No. Trace is just the epitome of a lazy character. He makes the Gen 6 squad look important. Why, I held off on Blue to talk about this until now. Blue is a cocky, arrogant person. Whether intentional or not, he picks the Pokemon that best shores in combat on typing alone at the beginning of the game. This makes him an inevitability that he would win if you guys were to go up against in the future unless you catch more Pokemon to best Blue. But he is training too. The fact that he was always one step ahead was frustrating. Anytime you reached the gym, his name was etched onto the winning trainer's plaque, mocking you. Blue was somebody you desperately wanted to wipe that smirk off his face. He always tried to one-up you with his knowledge, connections on his grandpa being Oak, his older sister giving tips as opposed to you, an only child. It felt like classic bullying of two kids. He always had some excuses when lost, like, oh, you just got lucky. At the end of it all, you finally beat Lance, discover Blue raced down just moments before. He sits at the champion spot. You battle him and take him down. After all, he's finally at a loss, unsure of what to say or do. To rub it in, his own grandfather, someone who has never treated him any different than you, criticizes him, and he didn't even make it champion long enough to get a thanks in from his grandfather. In the future, we see the outcome of that in the reflections we see made by Blue. Giovanni abandoned the gym in Viridian, and Blue steps up by the time Gold and Silver take place. He is a lot more mature seeming there, and taken to a more of a mentor role, testing trainers who seek the challenge in the league, something he did years prior. Take this in with Alola, where Red and Blue are on good terms years later. They travel together as friends. What was once a childish teasing became mutual respect for the two. Blue is still a bit cocky, that probably won't ever change, but here we see a humbled down version of himself as he grew up, and I think that's awesome. Similar to Gen 2, Silver had growth and development. He wasn't just an asshole. Or even go on to friendly rivals. Gen 5, Bianca, Sharon, and Hugh were all friendly but acted as actual rivals. For the first two, Bianca and Sharon had their own path of discovery, leading to their own ambitions in their life. They all followed a different path, but they all remained friends and rivals. Hugh had his own motivations and strove to get revenge for his sister. It was something that was different than a rival, but he still was your friend. It just was a different aspect you could look at. Even characters like Hop and How had more depth than Trace, in my opinion. They might have like one or two moments where they actually felt a little bit redeeming. They aren't perfect like I was just trying to allude to, but it felt like they actually tried to write a different character. Having him as a champion does not feel justified at all, unlike Blue. Trace just felt like the developers placed him here since they needed a rival that wasn't Blue and made him friendly. Most of its interactions felt forced since, well, Blue met Red here in the original. I do not like him, or even the generic copy-paste create a character body type A design. Like, what the hell is this thing? Pretty minimal in a grand sense, I know, but I really wanted to snuff up this douchebag rival debate right now and then, because I think it is an important thing to have a rival that you actually want to best at. They don't need to be a douchebag. They don't need to be an evil person. I think they just need to have a personality that makes you actually want to fight the fucking person. I know, grown man yells at fictional children, but you compare it with what I feel like is a great rivalry to arguably one of the worst in the series, it's just, I don't know. I mean, it's like him and the Gen 6 gang. I don't know whatever the heck they cooked up, because those are both low points for me. That's the games. Those are the stories, those are the differences, those are the characters. What games do you play? What would be the best? Well, following my opinions on these three, many would be right to assume that Leaf Green and Fire Red would be the best versions. And that is correct in my humble opinion. I think these games stand as the gold standard in Pokemon games and just how to do a remake. Are they the best way to play? Arguably no. Let's Go offers a lot more user-friendly experiences and overall welcoming to that of a younger and newer player. I don't think kids trying out Kanto on the Switch are going to get any more or less of an experience than those who played on Yellow, Red, Blue, or Fire Red and Leaf Green. The developers set to establish a feeling similar to what they hit 20 years prior, and I cannot help but respect that decision in the development cycle. Even now, I know people love Red and Blue for all of its faults, bugginess, and overall sense. Nostalgia is a powerful force, and who is to deny them that? It is fun watching the game be broken to hell and back. Getting Mew is actually pretty damn manageable with basic glitches early on. Stuff like that is memorable and sick. Gen 3 was another huge point for many. It fixed a large majority of the bugs and issues with an impressive graphical overhaul for the short time difference. Even playing these again though, I end up forgetting that some quality of life haven't been implemented yet. Let's Go is perfectly fine, if you prefer the differences. At its core is a very fine remake, and set itself out to be something different than just a graphical jump of Yellow or even the Gen 3 remakes. I won't deny I enjoyed my playthrough of Let's Go Pikachu. I'm sure this would all be the better if this was my Yellow. I even like Yellow. It is by far the least polished, but it's still incredible for the time. Each has its own versions, and I've even heard people say that they enjoy the catching mechanics in Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee. That's fine if I'm being honest. It's not that big a deal. Generation 1 set a godly precedent for the franchise of Pokemon. Kanto is a large place to explore. All the music is very memorable and lovely to listen to. The replayability factor is damn near endless with the team composition. Creating a long-standing franchise with the staying power Pokemon has is hard. See most of the competitors around the time. They may still some be active, but aren't as anywhere as omnipresent as Pokemon. The core of Pokemon has always been a way to make friends, talk, share, battle, trade in, not only with Pokemon, but secrets and tips and general knowledge with the actual people playing the games. It's a cornerstone of gaming and what makes it fun for me. Tajiri sought to replicate aspects of his childhood, and I sincerely hope that he feels like he achieved that goal. I think he did, at the very least. Pokemon has had an interesting history, to put it lightly, but the impact it had for many all across the world is something that can be rarely achieved. Connecting people on a global level is unreal at putting it into perspective. For me and many others, Pokemon has been something that's had its roots in anywhere and everywhere, and it all started with Kanto. It all started with red and blue and yellow. It all started with a simple battle between Gengar and Nidorino. And well, the rest is history.